That's not the one we called up, is it? That'd take a while. And this is how you come down. Here we are. Hey, puppy. What are you eating? Don't eat that. She, at the last leg of our journey, and we, missed the last ferry by minutes. So we gotta sit here for I don't know how many hours. Snowing. Hey, puppy. She just had a bunch of elk steak. So that explains her 3/4 pound increase in weight every day. Right, little pup? Made lots of new friends. She went over and stopped. We stopped for some friends in Worcester on the way through, and they have a 1-year-old little girl. And she went to licking that little girl's face and would not stop. And then the two of them played with each other safely. It was crazy. It was weird. Because I got like a hole in my nose and a hole in my cheek. I got holes in everything from these needle-sharp baby teeth. They're crazy. How sharp they are. But anyway, we're sitting here. And no sense in just sitting here without at least getting some emails shared. Here's a ferry unloading. Could that be ours? Hold on a minute. Alright, I got some time. Let's see who needs to be heard. Listen to this. This is titled Freedom to Talk Here. Hello, Steve. Thanks, Steve, for an opportunity to share my encounters. My name is Ron, and please use my name. If anyone has a problem, they can direct their comments towards me. This is an outstanding channel to ponder the mysterious encounters that cannot be discarded by skeptics. I was just derating some fruit while listening to an episode. Derating. I really enjoy the stories of encounters and your debriefs of each. Chapter 1. As a young boy, I lived in Meadow Valley, California. This valley is nestled in beautiful mountains and thick forest filled with wild animals you would expect from Northern California. As a child, I roamed these woods by myself and thought it was the most wonderful place in the world. I still do. There were numerous moments when I felt like I was being watched, however. I was never into fear, but more curious. I was permitted to carry my first rifle, which was a .22 caliber. I'm pretty sure I felt invincible, which is rather comical. Often slept inside my grandparents' screen-enclosed porch, weather permitting. The property landscaping consisted of grass and pea gravel, walking trails which led to a 5 to 6 step staircase to this porch. I was sleeping one night when I awoke without any provocation. No sounds, nothing except for a sudden rush of inexplicable fear. I felt like something was watching me. I was about 11 or 12 years old, making this a rather terrifying experience. I recall being tucked under the blanket, frozen in time. I knew there was something at the screen door looking at me. I was motionless while considering my options. I decided not to move. And this was not a bear or a deer. It sounded like a person due to the foot movements. A bear would have been much noisier on the stairs, just my thought. The sounds transitioned to something very heavy, going back down the stairs onto the pea gravel. It walked east towards the forest very slowly, yet deliberate, as the pea gravel was crushed under its feet. The sound slowly faded, and that was the end of the experience. I don't see anything. This encounter was based on my bizarre fear and sounds. I never spoke of the incident until years later. And of course, anytime I told folks about it, they generally stared at me with a look of confusion. My grandfather was a Marine, World War II veteran, and logging truck driver. I wish I had shared the experience with him before he passed. Fast forward in years to my next incident. Chapter 2. I was fresh out of the U.S. Marine Corps as a grunt, now attending college. Big mistake. I'm not a scholastic type of guy. However, college introduced me to dating after a tour in the Corps. I decided to introduce one of these dates to the Meadow Valley and Silver Lake area. After all, introducing city folks to the magnificent beauty of forest and mountain lakes is breathtaking for a newcomer. We arrived at Silver Lake, which I'm going to guess is about 10 miles as the crow flies from my grandparents' home. This lake is stunning, with the thick forest surrounding it and large granite boulders around the edges of the lake. These boulders are a great rally point to relax and enjoy life. Together, hand in hand, we walked out onto a huge boulder when suddenly a huge, dark-haired creature took off at a dead sprint from below us. My date screamed in terror, and I was numb because of what I was watching. This huge, hairy creature made the ground rumble as it tore through the forest. I've never forgotten that thud sounds of its 2 feet. I lost line of sight, but the sounds of it running lasted for a few more seconds. I never really talked about this again, and my date was under the impression this was a bear. Needless to say, she wanted to leave. Thanks, Bigfoot. Humor. Yeah, no doubt. What a prick. This is not a bear. It shook the ground as it ran on 2 legs and left a path of broken limbs. The only part that was odd is that I did not feel the sense of fear as I did the first time. I actually feel like our presence caught it off guard, as much as we did felt. This was the first time I considered Bigfoot as an explanation. End of story. I'm 57 now, and I've hunted California, Texas, and Nevada. The most I have come across are weird tree-type builds, leaning trees, and the sense of being watched. Upon retirement from law enforcement, I discovered this channel, and as I told you in another email, it is the best. I respect all who write into you and share their encounters. I would never harm these beings unless I felt self-defense was a last resort. The rural outdoors is theirs to roam. I'm just an explorer, and I respect all animals of the forest. Thank you for sharing my gun grab email. I felt like I got some things off my chest. P.S. Canada's stunning scenery. Please keep sharing some of the sights. Respectfully, Ron, Nevada. I will, Ron. Believe me, I will. I wish I didn't have to drive through the Duffy Lake zone in the dark last night, because that's one of the most stunning places. I've made a lot of videos there. And tons of shit goes on there. There you go. Another romantic interlude. Stolen. Dirty bastards. Don't they just have any kind of sympathy for the young men out there? And the women? Thanks for sending that, man. Send more when you get more, if you have more. Anything that'll help the people, right? Okay, here's another one. Excuse me. Titled, How Could It Disappear from View? They are not even supposed to be in the UK. Hi, Steve. The time and effort you just dedicated to this subject to help others is truly fantastic. I think you have personally got myself to link events in my life with the information you have divulged. With that in mind, I'm afraid you're having the full hit. Grab a glub of coffee and make of this what you will. Firstly, I'm 50 years old, male, living in North Wales, UK. Fit, strong, and still happy to say I've a clear mind. Let's rewind 25 years to an episode where I lost an hour of my life in the events leading up to this. I'm away on holiday in Spain with the lads, drinking and clubbing and keeping an eye out for the good-looking ladies. Now this is important. The lads always joked that I didn't need a watch at all, as I could literally wake up in the morning and they ask what time is it? 8:17 a.m. for example. I'd be no more than a few minutes out every time. I suppose I just have a good internal body clock. Yeah, no doubt. 6 p.m. We came up the beach this one particular evening to a pizza place, sat down, grabbed a beer and food. The restaurant was on the corner of the road that lead to the beach. Whilst I was there, I noticed a lady all in black, which was out of place for 29 degrees Celsius. Walked towards our restaurant, then turned towards the beach. 15 minutes later, this repeated itself. 15 minutes on, it repeated again. On the 1 hour we were there, this happened a total of 4 times. At the time, I thought nothing of it. I asked one of my buddies if it was about 7:03 p.m. He laughed and said, "You know it is." We had settled the bill and walked 1 minute to a taxi on the main road. We got on the taxi and I noticed that the taxi clock said 8:18 p.m. I had to pay attention to the light, and it was getting dark and it felt later. I wrote off the taxi clock time as something to do with the British Spanish time difference. The taxi journey took around 15 minutes to our hotel, and this is where it hit me, and subsequently my mates. The hotel reception clock showed 8:45 p.m. I asked my buddy with the watch, "Is the time 7:30 p.m.? As to me, that's what it was. He nervously laughed and said, "No, it's 8:45. 3 of us looked at each other, our mouths open. What the F just happened? Everyone said, "Anyway, forget that we have beers and women to meet up with." Anyway, forget that we have beers and women to meet up with. That night we all had the most horrific, vivid dreams, and we chatted about it the next morning. Mine was ESP and a vision. Let's bring things up to December 19th, 2020. We are in dreaded lockdown in the UK, but I ignore it, and I went to the woods daily with my wife and dog. Sometimes it'd be just myself and the dog, if I was out twice a day. This day I saw something big. It shimmered, went out of focus, and I lost complete sight of it. So, 10 minutes before this happened, myself, my wife, and dog were all together walking through the woods. I tend to dawdle and take my time. I like the sounds and not a rush to get home. It's 4:30 p.m. The light is fading. We're in the woods and I'm just being curious, looking down a horizontal cave that has fresh water running out of it. My wife had walked ahead about 10 minutes with the dog, and I was still on my belly looking down this cave. I stand up now and imagine I'm at the bottom of a short, steep, V-shaped valley, both sides really steep with old woods on either side. To my right, at the very top of the edge of the woods, where the woods finished and farmers' fields started, a figure stood up, stretched and yawned like it had been there a while. I was totally focused. I'm an ex-police, safety conscious and looking at it as much detail that my eyes would allow in the fading light. There was a second figure laying down at the other figure's feet and looking directly at me. This figure shuffled around a half meter backwards, uphill in a lying down position, and then disappeared from view. Now that's creepy. It's the figure that stood up now that baffles me. Remember when TV channels finished at night and the TV would emanate a white noise, visualize that image, and no channel tuned in, no sound, and that was now this figure. Oof. It had skylined itself with the field behind and no trees, so I saw it disappear. It faded over about to a 5 to 8 second period and was not instant. Looking back, I think they thought the woods was clear when my wife had walked out, not realizing I had stayed behind. A sharp snap, some 10 feet away from me, down a gully, took my attention for a fraction of a second. Dark, down an embankment with thick ferns, I couldn't see anything. Thing was, I had a mag light and for some reason chose not to use it. Almost like I knew it would be a bad move to turn it on. I decided to walk out of the woods to the road at the top, knowing my wife would be getting impatient if I was too long, as she would be cold. As I was leaving the woods, you could hear thud, 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 as it ran full speed downhill in the dark away from us. The sound of a pheasant being caught, and thud, it was dispatched. Crazy. Now when I hear what sounds like a 10-ton boulder hitting the forest floor, I make sure we're all together and leave that area. I also film a lot of my walks now, and I believe I caught them twice on film. However, when I'm in bed and hear 3 heavy footsteps come around my bed, I can't do anything about that. This is what happened this year, and something squeezed my hand. Thumb on the palm, fingers on the outside. It's pitch black, so you can't see anything, Steve. The reason I started this account with the time loss on holiday is people on occasion report having time loss. I hope Edgar is well and believe I know the location of where he had his experience, as myself and my wife heard the deepest, loudest bang in there, if it is the same location, which is a different location to my account I've relived today. Keep up the fabulous work, Steve. Best wishes, Simon. Holy shit, Simon. That's a holy shit one, right? It's funny how in the UK, the majority of the accounts and experiences that people send in from the UK seem to have the same theme. You know, it's like really, really bizarre. Things disappearing, things that should not be there. The title, How Can They Just Disappear from Sight? You know what? I don't know, but I'll guarantee you this. There's definitely a group of people on the planet that don't want us to know how. Can you imagine if we could do something like that? The shit that we could make end, right? Whoever could harness that skill. And of course the dirty dark bastards would do whatever they could to harness it up, to use it for the dark, as they do everything else, right? But imagine if the good guys, the good gals, the good people's army could harness these skills that these beings have. Ooh. Oh my God, could we clear up some BS? Maybe I should go sit in the woods for days on end and beg for them to teach me how. I wonder, right? I wonder. Okay, let's see what else we got. I don't know if I'm going to be loading this truck and this boat here pretty quick or not. I guess the engines start around me. Man, I'm feeling pretty rough. I didn't sleep hardly at all last night. After driving all night, got to my friend's empty house, farmhouse, and then I opted to sleep on the couch next to the window and the glass doors, put all Cuddles here in her own little room. And then for bedtime, and the storm made the house sound like it was getting broken into basically all night long. It's like, oh my God, I just kept on waking up. I don't feel like I've slept at all, but whatever. I'll sleep later. Now. Okay, here we go. What's this one? This is titled Red Now. Puzzle piece. Why we choose to experience negatively. Alright. Hello, Steve. I'm watching a video, quote, logger has eye-to-eye encounter with Sasquatch while using his saw, end quote. In it, you asked, paraphrasing, why would someone, if they had the ability to choose to come here and have a positive experience, choose instead to come here and have a negative experience, end quote. The short answer is soul growth. We as souls choose these experiences so that we may know ourselves and grow more in love by experiencing contrast. The same contrast, bracket, negative experience, bracket, that we as humans rail against. You see, where we come from, our home is a positive and loving vibration of light. We do not know contrast there, and so we do not fully know ourselves. In coming here, we seek to fully know ourselves through the useful experiential tool of contrast. Not just who we are, but who we are not. Hence the need for and volume of contrast and negative experience. As we develop our understanding of the value of our experiences, we experience a rising of our vibration and therefore a change in our consciousness and perspective. We then naturally turn to helping others navigate the path we have mastered. All of us seek a more positive experience here on Earth. All of us are calling for it, and we are creating it. Even now, you are creating it, Steve, by doing what you're doing. The contrast will not go away. It is why Earth exists. Instead, our understanding of that contrast will be what changes our experience here. Although there are many reasons why we individually might choose to incarnate here on Earth, some of the reasons are for working through karmic challenges brought about in past lives, finding self-love and self-worth, and finding emotional independence. What looks horribly negative from our perspective, murder, rape, terrorism, etc., is exceedingly positive from the soul's perspective. The greater depth and clarity of this knowledge, please read Robert Schwartz, Your Soul's Plan, and Your Soul's Gift, and Your Soul's Love. This line of study has much greater implications, which we are now just beginning to scratch the surface of. There is a much bigger picture here than we have ever imagined there to be, and it is a cosmic and infinite in scale. The universe is always in motion. As consciousness, we are born from one as individuated sparks who then go forth and seek to know themselves and each other. We create and expand until we return to and meld into the one yet again. This cycle continues in an infinite ballet. Birth, life, reunion. In truth, there is only one of us, and we are beginning to remember that fact. I hope this information helps you and all who seek their own puzzle pieces. Thank you, Steve, for being a warrior of light and a voice for the people. Much love and respect to you and your family. Sincerely, James. Okay, James. Absolutely appreciate it. That was a big chunk, right? It was a big chunk and mouthful for a lot of people to wrap their brains around. There's a lot of people here that can't wrap their brains around, not here, but I mean there's a lot of people in the world that just can't wrap their brains around much at all. It's kind of sad to watch. It's a really sad and frustrating watch. And that email cracks open a shit pile more of discussion and somewhat related topic. But a lot of people are probably wondering why that person wrote in. A lot of people that are fresh here, myself, my reactions to becoming aware of what the hell's going on in some of these places in the Forest Mountains where I go, made my mind go, what the hell are they lying to us for? What the hell's going on? And then I start digging deeper, and I see clearly that we are being lied to and misled about basically everything across the board. So, the odd email, I toss out a question for me and hope to find answers through all of you. So, if you're wondering where that email came from, that's where it came from. Me asking questions. I love asking questions. I love getting answers, so thank you for that email, man. Thank you for the email. Appreciate your time. And I will be doing some more digging. Nobody's loading this boat yet. Adventure Puppy's passed out again. Had a big day. Excuse me. This is titled Hope Valley. I could add a pile more questions to that email to you guys, just so you know, a pile more. But I'm going to save that for another time and keep going on getting more voices heard while I'm sitting here. Hope Valley. Title this one. Hi, Steve. My brother got me hooked on watching your YouTube channel. I've read one of David Plattis' books, and I also read your book. Love it. I grew up in the Sierra Nevada mountains in Lake Tahoe, and have, of course, heard Bigfoot stories, but never had any encounters myself. I grew up backpacking and hiking, camping, and rock climbing. You know, always being outside and always feeling super happy and comfortable in the woods. I had an experience happen to me this past October that I want to share. I was in Hope Valley, California, one of my favorite places by the river that I go to by myself quite often and sit by the river and write. On this day, when I got there, I was aware that nobody else was around, and my sixth sense is pretty damn spot on. And within like 2 minutes of me sitting down on a rock by the river, I felt uneasy and I couldn't shake it. But I stayed there for a few more minutes, trying to just focus on my writing. And I keep looking around me, and then I realized how quiet the woods were. And it was almost like I couldn't even hear the river. Totally eerie and quiet. Felt this pressure, and all the hairs on my neck and arms were standing on end, and I knew I was being watched. But I couldn't figure out if it was a mountain lion or a sabe. We're known to have both in the area. Sorry. I never saw anything, but I was aware of something watching me, and I felt extremely unwelcome and had warning bells going off in my head that I needed to get the hell out of there right away. I left, and I haven't been back yet, but I know I'll go back again, but next time with a friend. I've never felt anything like that in all the years I've spent outside in the wilderness. Totally wild. Not the most unique story, but one I wanted to share because I know what it was. You do too. Thanks for what you do. Keep up the good work. You're a great storyteller. God bless, Leah. Thanks for the email, Leah. Thanks for the location too. And I'll guarantee you, if that's what we think it was, somebody else has experienced the same thing in that zone, and it's going to knee-jerk them into either writing in or commenting down below. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. There's another recent one coming up. What do we got here? I think I can still keep reading. December 10th, 2022. Steve, thanks for all you do for us. You read my Up Until Then, a lifetime of experiences back in March. It was like a weight being lifted off my shoulders to be able to share it. Good. I love reading that. During my entire life, almost 7 years, I haven't given a shit what anyone thinks. So yes, you can use my name, Dennis Barrow. What a great looking new friend you have. Have fun cleaning up after it in the spring, LOL. Sure, it's growing fast. Just had another experience on December 10th. A little recap of my location. I live about 15 miles northwest of Helena, Montana, up towards the Continental Divide. A nice small valley about 3 miles long and 1.5 miles wide. 6 or 7 homesteads that raise small herds of cattle, a couple with some goats, and almost everyone has chickens and turkeys. There are another 10 to 12 homes in the area as well. Probably 6 livestock guardian dogs spread across the area. I let you go for a short walk in the evenings and can always hear the dogs talking to each other. Well, the evening of the 10th was about 15 degrees Fahrenheit, and the moon had been full the night before, I believe. Beautiful, clear, and bright outside. I can hear the dogs all talking to each other, along with the den of coyotes that lives up past the last home. I have my warm bomber hat on to cover my ears, along with their ringing. I have my ears from time in the Army. It can be challenging to hear really well at times. But I heard an owl hoot. We have owls around here, but this seemed loud. I covered my ears to listen. Yep, an owl. A very loud owl. A very strange sounding owl. It just seemed off. It's about 300 yards from my place to the creek at the bottom of the valley, and this owl was in the trees past there. That's when I heard another owl a few hundred yards to the left. I know sound travels pretty good on the clear and cold nights, but these were loud. I almost feel the volume of air behind these hoots. Hoot, hoot, then a pause of about 3 seconds, and 6 or 7 really short hoots like someone was playing around trying to learn how to sound like an owl. Same response from the left. Sounded really off from normal owls. This happened about 4 or 5 times. This is when I realized there was not a sound from any of the dogs. Utterly quiet on their part, not normal. I reached for my phone to record the sounds and found I did not bring it with me. I had that feeling I knew who and what was out there. I said out loud, "Please leave everyone here alone. We don't want any interaction with you. Please leave all the animals alone also. Thank you." I stood there for another 10 minutes listening, and then the local dogs started to talk to each other again. No more owl hoots, and I hope no more visits here. 2 nights later, my dog was sitting in the house with me, and she started to growl, looking towards the patio doors. I had the curtains closed, and it was dark out. So I decided it was time to go for my evening walk and see what the dog was upset about. Got my warm clothes on, and we headed outside. The dog headed up the hill to where we have an elk and deer hanging from our mee pole. She was barking at something in that direction. As I got close to that area, I could see a light of some sort near there. I couldn't see anything but a small glow through the trees. I figured it was my son that lives next door. I called out, and the light disappeared, and my dog came back to me. Okay, not my son. I followed my dog's tracks in the snow to where she'd been, just a few deer tracks from our local herd, no other tracks that didn't belong. The elk and deer hanging were fine also. Lucky one. What was that light? An orb? I thought it was strange being right on the tail end of our owls encounter. Dennis. And there you go. I wonder why they pick owl hoots. That's funny, especially when they know they suck at it. It's kind of odd, isn't it? How many, probably thousands of people now have reported hearing the over-exaggerated owl hoots that sound way too loud and deep at times and awkward to sound like a real owl. I wonder why they all choose that one. I'd choose something else, something funny myself to really mess with people, but anyway. Keep us posted, man, what goes on around your property. If you learn anything, it's going to help somebody, send it in. And hanging your deer and elk out there, I wouldn't hang my deer and elk outside anywhere. Work too hard to get it. To have it offered up and taken by one of those people or something else. But anyway, this boat's about to load. I'm so tired. Adventure puppy's passed out. She's tired too. I took her on a big hike. I couldn't believe I managed to get my truck up this old logging road. Barfing snow. I just could not believe we got up there. I think it's probably because it was real cold. Minus 20-ish. And we got up there and I threw her out of the truck and took her on a real nasty hike, and I grabbed 4 trail cameras. So she's done. That's the biggest hike she's ever had yet. But anyway, I'll be back with more later. I'm going to talk to Dave here pretty quick to see what's up. Talked about a show, talked about some other stuff. Talk to some other people and get my information together that I have from the nuclear physicists, scientists. That's been burning a hole in the back of my brain to get done. And I'm gonna get that done. And you guys are gonna have it. Anyway. Alright, so decided to ride down here below deck with the dog instead of sitting up there with all those people over the damn place. And pretty busy. Right. Ordered myself a salmon burger, and then I ordered her a double burger without cheese. And I pulled the patties out and fed her. She loved it. Now she's chewing on her elk bone. So, sitting down here, got an hour and 40 minutes to go, or an hour and something, I don't know, an hour, whatever. I got time to kill. So, this one is titled Yowie Encounter Queensland, Australia, 2010, maybe 2011. My student name is Reg. 44-year-old white male, tradie, house painter for 28 years. Please just use Reg if you publish this encounter. I stumbled across your YouTube channel about a year ago. I put this whole topic to the back of my mind as much as you can, and was amazed and shocked at the amount of sightings you guys have over in the States. It's great to hear these experiences from people with reputable backgrounds too. And is why I'm compelled to share with y'all one of my own experiences from Australia, if you're interested. Backstory. Number 1. I shared 2 of my experiences with blank blank's research outfit. but they weren't that interested because it was just one of the many type of things they've heard before. And I had no photos or anything. Kind of put me off, so I shut up about it for a long time. I'm not promoting any and I don't promote anyone here. I don't even know who you're talking about. Doesn't matter. I've had a few run-ins with these things since I was about 11 years old, growing up around Lake Macquarie, NSW, which was a bush town with a rich First Nations people heritage. Many old shell, middens, and history to the area. Excuse me. They have their own stories about the Yowie, which they call a Doolagal, or Junjedi, or a Quinkin, which is also a flesh-eating spirit from the Dreamtime stories. Also close to Newcastle, a coal mining town with underground shafts and tunnels everywhere. One mine shaft went out of the lake all the way out to the sea, where he used to load coal on ships in the late 1800s. But the experience I'm sharing today was the most recent, and the one that kept me out of the bush for a few years. Itchy. Excuse me. I've attached a few photos of the trail map to the area, and highlighted a couple of things where roughly the incident took place. In Lamington National Park. I've experienced other weird shit up there, but that's another story or two. For the sake of my story, I will say border area of northern NSW, southeast Queensland, because I noticed blank 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 doesn't post many reports on Lamington, probably because of the tourism and not wanting everyone going up there looking for them. No hunting or fires allowed in the parks too. The encounter. Okay, it was late in the year 2010. It was an extra dry hot summer. For 2 weeks straight, it was about 30 to 35 degrees Celsius and very much fire conditions. The national park is near the northern New South Wales border of southeast Queensland, Australia, about 2 hours drive inland from the Pacific Ocean, elevated up to 1,120 feet, small but steep, the remnants of an ancient volcano rim with Mount Warning in the center. Last of the Gondwana-era continent. Although most of the area is subtropical rainforest, the trail I walked was the most dry in terms of geology and flora. A lot of dense eucalypt scrub, brush box, cedar, dry sclerophyll. Let me do that one more time. Dry sclerophyll at elevation, rainforest in the valley floor. Heaps of large granite and basalt outcrops, caves, holes, creeks, cliffs, really hectic and rugged wilderness. You really don't have to go far off track. GPS don't work and compasses are sketchy because of a lot of iron ore in the ground. No shit. Topographical maps are the only way to navigate off track. I'd walked this man-made track a few times before. I've been walking every track in the park multiple times since '98, doing solo overnighters out in the middle of that place in a hammock since 2005. So, was fairly confident that I wasn't attracting the attention of these things if they were there. From reports I've read, these things rarely if ever come out when it's wet, so I used to time most of my overnighters with rainy weather. Anyway, that's interesting. I've never heard anything like that before myself. Anyway, I spent a few good hours walking. I take all day because I like to photograph things with a macro lens, so I'll often be down in a log or a creek looking for creatures and interesting things as I make my way around. I'd ventured 50 meters off track into a cool spot that's like a giant laundry chute, like a 3/4 round chimney of rock that goes vertical up 3 stories to a sloping 45-degree ridge. I was having a snack and a couple of tokes on a reefer. I'm only mentioning that because I think that's what pissed them off on this day. These things hate fire. I'm not sitting in their home blazing smoke in drought season. Something I used to do to take the edge off and relax in the bush. I'm not off my head. If anything, I'm more alert and relaxed and sensitive to the environment. Excuse me. Hey, just a side note for anybody out there, I'm not into drugs myself. I'm not a drug guy. No big deal. I don't think marijuana should be called a drug, but for all you people that do make mention that you smoked a joint, nobody gives a shit. We're all up to date, educated, that it's not what they tried to convince the society that it isn't. I just lost what I was saying. They proved that marijuana remedies a lot of illnesses, a lot. It's very helpful, it's natural, and apparently it's quite good for you. So, and no, it doesn't make you think you see hairy monsters. So it's just a quick heads up for anybody in the future that's going to email in and you feel a little awkward writing you're smoking a joint. Nobody gives a shit. They really don't. Onward. These days I only burn white sage in the bush as a cleansing / protection ritual. Getting ready to move on, I hear something slowly moving down the ridge above me, but just thought the usual scrub turkey or a wallaby, wild dog, etc. I ambled along, taking time to stop for photos of anything of interest. Plants, insects, some of the rock formations, enjoying the hot, clear day. Only 3 or so kilometers from the end of the walk, I'm about 500 meters from a partial grass clearing, where the rangers have mowed a couple of acres. The track is still narrow. I'm coming around a dogleg near a high cliff section on my left. Then the track heads to the clearing, thick dry scrub and steep sloping downhill to my right, which I can't see over because of a rise. Excuse me. I notice the insects getting a little quiet, then snap. 45 degrees off to my right, over the rise where I can't see, I hear a stick effortlessly break in half. A big stick. No wind around. I stop, dead silence. I think back to the ridge movement I heard a few kilometers back. I keep walking, very much on alert, take a couple photos of some random things, as I don't care about the stick. When I'm about 200 meters from the clearing, I get that instinctual sense I'm being watched by someone. I spin around to my 45 degrees on the right, and my eyes settle on a dark face shape, nearly level with me, about 20 meters away. Disappear as two branches move back into place, like something was looking at me with two hands, parting the shrub, then let go when I saw it, and his face went back into the shadows. At the exact same time, the branches snapped back into place, at least 6 meters from where that was. A shape of a head and shoulders stands up in the shrub 10 meters from where I am, and it moves silently through the most dry country scrub about 2 meters toward me, then squats down, and I can't frickin' see it. It looked like the Predator movie, camouflage as it moved, and I shit you not, silence. I immediately think, throw a rock down there. Another part of me says, F that. I pull out my camera slowly and think at it, rush me, and I'll record you. Sounds dumb, but that's all I have, man. Still silence, no movement. I'm a big lad, 6'2", athletic, confident, survival-oriented, but I wasn't going any closer to that shrub for any reason. I slowly backed away and slowly made my way to that clearing, almost walking backwards and watching around my periphery everywhere the whole time. I think there was 2 of them. They slipped up when they broke the stick, and I was too aware to not notice something was up when they started with the staring and the final stalk. I made it to the clearing, which wasn't far from the road, and sat there for 30 minutes until dusk. As I sat in the clearing, I could hear like a high-frequency pitch faintly moving around me on all sides for a few minutes. It would be over here one way, then over the other side, and that went on away too. And that went away too. These are my last set of shit-eating readers, and they've suffered 3 days of road tripping, and it looks like somebody used them in a mud puddle. Anyway, I didn't do any more overnight camping after that. It really put the wind up me, how exposed I've been staying out there, and just generally, what the F. End of story. Excuse me. I stayed away from the bush for a few years since. I only started getting back out there to do sound healing sessions with Buddhist ritual instruments to cope with the scamdemic madness that was forced upon us all. I'm utterly shadow-bound on YouTube for giving the truth to MSN sites at the peak of the lockdown insanity. Supporting Canadian truckers on YouTube, etc. I'm pretty much labeled domestic terrorist, so I don't even take my own channel seriously because I've been shut down already. Censored, deleted, trolled, threatened, banned. It was all worth it, though. Australian government beyond the pale level of globalist mandated corruption. Anyway, Steve, excuse my ranting. Love your videos. Your wilderness areas look absolutely stunning and dangerous. Thanks for doing what you do. I like the hunting stuff as well. Always wanted to go bow hunting. Maybe one day. All the best and take care, and thanks for your time. Okay, man, thanks for your time. Okay, I'm not going to be able to share those because there's actually writing on it, but it looks like pamphlets from the park, right? I don't think that... I don't know if that's working. It doesn't look like it's working to me. Well, if I remember to do this once I'm home. And you mentioned some researcher group a couple times. I hope you realize by now, they're just other people on their own ride, right? It doesn't matter. I mean, it just doesn't matter anymore. I think this group of people have proved that if you want knowledge, true, honest knowledge, you go to the people for it, right? I found that as soon as you start giving the authority, maybe possible, position to anybody, they take it and they go with it and they own it. They think. Right? And it kind of works against. I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know if they're good or they're bad. I don't have a clue. But I'm just saying, I wouldn't worry about any group. The only group we should all worry about today is us, the people, right? It's all about the people. Each one of us absolutely equal. Each one of us gets to share what we've seen, tell an honest story, not be ridiculed, not have it deleted or hidden because I don't agree with it, as an example, right? like some of those other absolute shit bags that have made their lives into reality TV. But anyway, excuse me, moving along. Thanks again for your time, man. Thanks for your time. Time is so valuable. Alright, what do we got here? This one looks like a long one. I think I got time. Let's go for it. Adventure Puppy has an elk bone. Hey, make it out. Are you good? Are you good? Did you figure out I'm not talking to you yet? Alright. Alright, here we go. Excuse me, you guys. Several stories of Sabe and something else unknown from my childhood. Hi, Steve. First off, I want to say thank you for all you have done and continue to do. My name is Deanna Stallings. Yes, you may use my name. I was born and raised in Panama City, Florida. I now live in southeast Texas in the piney forest. All my stories I'm about to tell you took place in the Florida Panhandle. No shit, because I heard that southeast Texas is a hot spot too. I was raised in my grandmother's land and raised pretty much by her and my mother. My grandmother raised 10 kids of her own, raised countless grandkids, and worked for the school board for 40 years until she retired. Holy shit. She bought a piece of land on Highway 22 on the east side of Panama City. The highway her land sits on leads straight to a place called the Dead Lakes, a prehistoric cypress swamp. I'm telling you where it is because I feel it's related. Her property had an open field next to it, and there... Hold on a minute. This guy's annoying as F. Alright. I'm telling you where it is because I feel it's related. Her property had an open field next to it, then there was a creek. Across the road was woods that led to 2 more woods and power lines. All the woods in Bay County have access to water of some sort. The aquifer is spring-fed. My first experience is when I was just 9 years old. Our family was having a bonfire on the backside of my grandmother's property. The property at the edge had wisteria vines, and those were cut to be the border. There was a few of us by the fire, my mother, my 2 brothers, 2 of my uncles, and myself. I needed to use the bathroom, and begged my mom to walk with me down the path even though there was almost a full moon that night. I could see easily. She did walk with me. On the way back, as soon as we stepped off on the path, we heard something in the bushes, and we walked a little bit, and whoever it was walked a little bit, paralleling us down the side of the property where the open field was. We don't have any comments, you guys. Patience. There was one spot in the property line. There was no border. It was out property, a big oak tree, then a small ditch, then open field. It must have been... No, sorry, it must be a typo. One more time, I'm sorry. Oh, maybe you meant it was our property. I don't know. A big oak tree, then a small ditch, then open field, then a creek that is part of a basic highway of creeks, bayous, streams, and bays. Anyway, we stopped and it stopped. At this time, we both realized whatever it is following us. My mom yells out to James, "Stop messing around." James, my older brother. At this time, a feeling of dread and fear came over us, and we took off running. We got to the part of the trail where it was open, and there in the moonlight, there it was running along, paralleling us in the small ditch. A Sabe. We got to the campfire, and everyone was there, and looked at us and knew something was wrong. We packed it up, put out the fire, and went back inside. And no, we didn't try and see where it went or any of that. Description. It was 6 feet, and it was standing in a ditch and crouched down like it was creeping on us. Its head was turned toward us. I couldn't make out his face. I do remember his shoulders and neck were like one piece, and it was hairy. Its hair was approximately 4 inches long all over it. It stood on 2 feet, and was totally acting as if it was stalking. As if it was stalking position. That's my first experience. My next experience is a few years later. I was 13 and my mother had went on a date and left me at home alone. My mom had a trailer house, moved in on my grandmother's property 50 feet from her house. Anyway, excuse me, it was about 9 at night. And I was in my mom's room on the phone with my friend when I started hearing footsteps outside pacing back and forth. I instantly started trembling with fear. I felt the evil or fear this thing was putting off. It then started scraping the outside of the trailer with claws on a chalkboard, back and forth. That's not too cool. I was in tears, and I remember my mom telling me if I was ever scared to call on the Lord and rebuke it. I did this. Whatever it was stopped. I hung up with my friend and called my mom, and she was at her boyfriend's house, and my grandmother was in her late 80s at the time, so she wouldn't have been out in the dark scraping along the trailer. The next day, there was paint missing from the scraping. Next encounter was with my mother in her room, same spot. I had my previous encounter. It started scraping again, but this time it was more manic-like, almost frantically trying to tear into the end of the house. My mother was terrified. I was terrified, crying, and then something snapped in me, and I got mad. I ran to the front door, and all I had was a baseball bat. And before I slung the door open, my mom ran out and grabbed me and said, whatever it is isn't good, and it will tear you into pieces. This thing was terrorizing us. It went on like 20 minutes. I had many more encounters up until I left home. I would lay under my cover at night and pray that it would just go away. One night it showed up scraping on my window at the other end of the trailer. I ran to wake my mom and stepdad and trust that was a big decision. What? Excuse me. I ran to wake my mom and stepdad and trust that was a big decision to wake my stepdad. He was a strict guy, but I'd rather take my chances with him than whatever was outside my window. He opened the back door mad and said, "See, I told you." He opened the back door mad and said, "See, I told you," stopped dead in his sentence, slammed the door shut, and said, "Deanna, you can sleep on the couch tonight." He never said what he's seen. I know he's seen something. My uncle seen something as a child on the same property. He said he heard Grandma calling him, so he came running there. There was no one there, but he seen something dark and black and hairy with glowing red eyes hunched over behind a palmetto bush. Ever since I've had these experiences, I've been on a mission to find out as much as I could about all things that aren't supposed to exist but do. Thank you for this channel and all you do to help the people. Wow. Well, thanks for your time. I have a feeling there's a lot of people in your family or in your community that know exactly, that have the same experiences you've had, probably know more too. You should probably start talking out loud to everybody about it. And if they laugh at you, send them this video. All right? And if they are laughing at you, and you do manage to watch this video sent from her, you're a pussy. Well, and there you go. So much has happened in Florida and still happens there. What a terrifying few experiences to have as a child, eh? Brutal. What a shitty thing to do to a mom and her kids. It sucks. Alright, I'm gonna go one more, but I feel like I'm not reading too smooth. I don't want to butcher any of these up. And I haven't slept. I feel like I haven't slept in a couple days. Maryland. Catoctin State Park. Catoctin State Park. Around 93. Late summer, we decided to have a picnic a bit farther north to escape the sweltering humidity near Washington, D.C. I drove up to Catoctin, pronounced Catoctin, Catoctin State Park in Maryland on a weekday, less crowded. My husband and kids, about 3 and 1 years old. Note, this next bit will come into play later. After my experience in the park, I'm shaking and with frantic urgency explaining my experience to the park rangers. They informed me the gate to the public/playground area should have been closed. It was only open on weekends as per budget issues in Maryland at the time. As a state legislative employee, I was aware of the budget issues, but not of the consequences for the park. Anyway, back to the story. We get to the park, get out, and I noticed right away that there is absolutely zero animal sounds or sightings. No bird sounds, no squirrels, nothing. Thought to myself, how peaceful it is without the weekend crowd. So great to have the park to ourselves. Wrong. There are no other cars in the parking lots. Let me describe the layout of our location, as I recall it, and I'm sure it has changed significantly since then. But there were at least 2 parking lots there, in this order. Parking lot, many spaced out picnic areas with grills, a few pavilions around the edges, then another large parking lot over a rise, and then a playground at the far end of that second parking lot at the edge of the woods. All surrounded by forest. We are 20-something morons with no weapons or bear spray, oblivious to possible danger. Anyway, we pick a picnic table, unpack the cooler, eat our lunch, and I decide to take the kids to the playground, which we could not see from the picnic area, but knew it was there from the map. So I'm carrying my 1-year-old, and my 3-year-old is just skipping along in front. I have no worries with him getting a little ahead of me, as there is no one there, no other cars. I'm mostly looking down at where I'm walking, or at my daughter, and I hear something to my right in the woods, like a loud snap or a crack, but I don't see anything. But I do look toward the playground, which is a little bit away at the end of the second large parking lot, and I stop dead in my tracks and I tell my son to stop. The playground is partially shaded by the tall overreaching trees behind it, so at first I think I'm watching 2 baby bears climbing up and sliding down the slide. And since I'm terrified of bears, I am frozen. Then I think I see an unusually tall bear standing sort of beside/behind the ladder in the shade, much taller than the ladder. I'm thinking that is strange looking. I'm thinking that is a strange looking and acting bear to just stand there. I don't think the standing one saw me at first, but to my horror, still thinking it's bears, with my son about 3 feet in front of me, eager to get to the playground, one of the small ones started running/hopping/bounding. The movement's hard to describe, toward us. I think, holy shit, how can I run fast enough for this 1-year-old in my arms and reach my 3-year-old before the animal gets to him? So I make a split-second decision to put my 1-year-old down and sprint past and in front of my 3-year-old, skidding to a stop in the gravel, and I screamed, "Stop! No, stop!" At this, animal gaining considerable ground towards us. Oh, sorry, I think meant as this animal gaining considerable ground towards us. As if that is going to stop a bear cub, right? But I didn't really know what to do, and I didn't want this thing reaching my kids and invoking the anger of that huge bear. I'm now aware that we are in imminent mortal danger. However, the baby bear does stop, but it's close enough that I realize it's not a bear. I'm mesmerized by this. I can't comprehend what I'm looking at. It's a hair-covered, fully functional, infant-faced sabe. Cuter and more humanish than a baby chimpanzee, but definitely not human. I'm both horrified and yet feel sorry that I yelled at it. Weird, I know. That's when I hear a low whoop from the playground and a menacing growl from the right. The lookout? Maybe the male's in the woods on the right and the female's on the slide? I suddenly remember my 1-year-old. The creature that was behind the ladder is now standing closer near the bottom of the ladder, and I'm sure it's getting ready to get the one that is basically frozen where it stopped. I slowly stand halfway up, skidding to a stop as on my knees, and start backing up. When I reach my 3-year-old, who is crying to go to the playground, I scoop him up, turn and run to my 1-year-old and scoop her up. Then run as fast as I can with 2 small, screaming, squirming kids back to my husband. And I'm screaming, "We have to get out of here now." Even now writing this, my entire body feels as tense as a wire. He's not understanding. And I'm now finding it impossible to talk, and I feel like I'm moving through molasses. I secure the kids in the car, lock the doors, and I'm throwing shit in the cooler. Willy-nilly, don't care. Just pitching everything in the trunk. My husband's trying to calm me down, and I'm not having it. I can only scream at this point, and I scream to him, "Get in the car now, or I'm leaving your ass here." I'm only about saving my kids at this point. He's still not getting it, looking around and trying to have a conversation. I'm then in the driver's seat, and I've already closed the door on him, and that's when he decides he better get in the passenger side. And I'm literally driving off as he's getting in. Trust me, I am over this little outing to the utmost. Once we're driving away, I'm shaking, and tears are streaming down, but laser focused on getting distance fast. I know I'm in no shape to drive, as it is taking every ounce of concentration I have to stay in my lane. But I'm not stopping. He keeps asking me what happened, and I can't talk. All I can manage is screaming. That's probably a shock. I turn out of the park, blowing through the stop sign, and eventually pull into the Maryland Parks ranger station that we passed on the way in. I just sit there for not sure how long, and to shut my husband up, I managed to mutter the word, bears. I just can't say what I really saw because I'm still so scared. I have to force myself to leave the car and walk the few steps to the ranger house door because I'm convinced they are following us and will kill me for yelling at their baby. Even though it felt like a death march, I couldn't just leave and allow some unsuspecting people to walk into that picnic area. Yeah, funny, eh? But the government's got no problem letting people do that, right? In order to sound saner than I look, and so that they don't laugh in my face, I'm yelling at them like a crazy person that they have bears at the playground, and they try to give me a hard time for being at the park when it's closed. But I'm still yelling at them that the gate is wide open and there's no sign that the park is closed, and why would it be closed anyway? I then decided to take a slightly different approach. Hold on. I then decided to take a slightly different approach and yell that not only are they bears, but some type of deformed mutant bears with human-looking faces. When they seemed hesitant to go check it out, I assured you that them not doing something was not an option. After me feeling like I risked my life to walk in there, and I'm trying to maintain my composure to get them moving, and us in our car, as far away as possible. We lived about 2 hours away in a Washington, D.C. suburb. So, I frantically dug out my Maryland State Legislature ID card from my purse. Probably could have lost my job, as I worked for the Department of Budget Review at the time and was very well versed with the state park budget, and showed them my ID along with a few facts about their budget, such as 2 vacancies that could be cut for budget purposes. At that point, they seemed much more interested in my very zealous concern, and one of them left right away to check it out and assured me he had locked the gate. I told him to take a gun. I wouldn't let my husband drive us home for some reason. After 30-ish years, it's a vivid and often recalled memory. We never went to that park again. We have hiked many places, including a 6-mile Alaskan hike up a mountain with sheer drop-offs in the rain for a glacier view. Nowadays, at 60 years old, I will only go on established trails, and only if there is a full parking lot. I would advise against trying to avoid the crowds at the Catoctin State Park. My name is Sharon Berg, and I know what I saw. I was absolutely terrified, and I had a feeling that killing me and my kids was an option on the table to protect their own. I'll never go camping in the woods unless in a log cabin, and even then I will never go camping in the woods unless in a log cabin, and even then, I'm sure there will be no stopping one of these horrific, terrifying creatures if they want it in. To me, in my limited and humble opinion, they are smarter than us, but without the full range of human emotion. Much more animal in that way than human, largely instinctually based when it comes to survival or protecting young or territory. They are not our friends, not to be trusted. Thank you for reading this. I've shared this story with a few that I trust, and my body always reacts the same every time. I'm always scanning the tree line, even though I never want to see or relive anything remotely similar with these things. Thank you for this channel and calling out the evil bastards that kept me in the dark about this reality. You are welcome, and thank you so much for that email. Man, that's a first. I don't think we've ever had anybody email us in and say that they're watching some frickin' little ones playing in a park swing sets and shit. Why not, right? Why not? Why wouldn't they? Interesting. I wonder in your travels since then, how many more people you ran into that had seen the same thing. And I wonder what those rangers knew. Wonder what they knew. I wonder how many of them are told the truth after training. Or I wonder how many of them are told the truth once they get employment. And then obviously you're probably threatened with keep their mouth shut if they're going to lose the employment, right? Or worse. We'll get to the bottom of it. We'll get to the bottom of it. The bottom's getting closer. These filthy bastards. The filthy bastards who don't want us to know the truth about so much. I don't want to die and then find out truths and then go, oh, no way. Just don't. It's probably one of my biggest fears in life. What's left of life for me is I just don't want to. I don't want to. You know what I mean? I just don't want to go to the end of this ride and have that, shit, you pricks got me. I don't want it. I want to get them back while I'm here now. You know what I mean? I want to know now. I want to share that truth now. Anyway, I'm so tired. I'm babbling. That's enough. Who knows what the sound of the engine of the ferry boat sounds like in the back of this video. But what's going on, Adventure Puppy? Oh no, she got her leash off and is chewing her flashlight, I think. Seriously? You are too. How did you do that? Oh my god. You got a bone. Why do you gotta chew the absolute shit out of everything?